But what a weekend it was. No, Harvard only went 1-2. That's not what I'm talking about. But how about this Final Four? And may I start with the text that came in from a bunch of former Indiana players. Two of them said the same thing back to back. There is a God. What does that mean? There is a God means, ladies and gentlemen, that no Houston and Calvin Sampson, who came into Indiana like a crazy person and destroyed our program. That's number one. And of course, Alabama Slamma decided, well, we're going to sell our soul. We don't care about any kind of pride or character or dignity or integrity. We are simply going to try to win basketball game. And the kid that they put their hopes on, Brandon Miller, 3 for 19, 1 for 10 from three, a complete blank show. Then the text came in. There is a God. There is a God. We do have a God. And I'm like, you know what? You ain't wrong, brother. You ain't wrong. Dylan, could you put the program on here? I only have it in a little box. I don't have it on the main screen here so I can see it if you don't mind. FAU, look, we're going to talk to Dusty May coming up here in a moment. But Dusty May led his team to the point of getting to the Final Four at Florida Atlantic University. And Florida Atlantic University did it in a variety of ways. Now, they had to go toe-to-toe with Memphis, an uber athletic team. They had to go toe-to-toe with them and got a last-second shot and got it done. Pretty good. FDU, the darling of the tournament. Oh, my God, look what they did to Purdue. Well, guess what? They were going to lose? No, they weren't. They ended up getting that done. And then they had to go up to big, bad Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee with all that physicality, they're getting Duke in the mud. Duke quit like Dukies do. Next thing you know, they whooped up on them, and then they had to beat the darling. Marquise Newell, and they did. I got to tell you, this run that they're on, and I cannot wait to talk to Dusty May about it coming up here in a few minutes. This run they're on is just sensational, and it's fun because it's team basketball. It's passion. It's finding the next. It's egoless. Jahani Davis seems to be their hero, but man, it's just team. And I love it. And when you look at all of these teams, it's just team. UConn over Gonzaga. Now I'm staying Saturday night. UConn over Gonzaga was the best performance we've seen in the tournament. Like that second half was incredible. They beat they beat Gonzaga by 30. And I got to tell you, yeah, it was probably that. It wasn't like all of a sudden they won a game by 30. It wasn't like all of a sudden we won by 30. They just beat them, and it got to 30. And it was not going to come back from 30. See, there are different ways. You get up 20 or 15, 18, whatever, and then you start making shots because everybody's loose and you win by 30. This was a physical beatdown by the best team in the tournament, by the coach that coaches them the hardest. Here's what I love about these teams. Danny Hurley coaches his team harder than anybody. Danny Hurley did not lose one single player in the transfer portal. Now, I want you to think about that. Coaches today are so afraid to coach their teams, particularly in college basketball, because everyone's a whiner. Barkley said it the other day on 60 Minutes. We live in an era where players don't like to be criticized. Okay, guess what happened? Danny Hurley is tougher than tough on his team. He just is. But he loves them up. Everybody's got to love him up. I don't get the whole love him up thing, but that's what you're supposed to do. And Danny Hurley had nobody transfer, and Danny Hurley at UConn has the best team in the tournament. I'll tell you who else coaches them tough. We told you last week when I gave you my 5 best coaches remaining in the Sweet 16, we gave you the name Brian Dutcher. Why did I give you the name Brian Dutcher? Well, San Diego State's head coach is known for toughness defensively. Now, you got to understand Dutch. He coached and recruited 2 different groups to Michigan. He had the Glenn Robinson group, which when he and Steve Fisher took over right before the tournament, ended up winning a national championship. Glenn Rice, the outstanding player. He coached that group. Then he was involved ultimately with the Fab Five, that group of crazies that ultimately put Michigan on probation and caused them to lose their banners. He was involved in both. When you thought of Michigan, you didn't really think of toughness. But all of a sudden, here's the history of San Diego State. They go out to San Diego, they being Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher. And what do? They establish a team that's going to fight you on the West Coast. They establish a defensive-minded, very physical team and program. Fisher, great run. This guy, Dutcher, comes in. Next thing you know, they're in the Final Four. It's pretty freaking amazing. It's pretty freaking amazing what they have been able to do there. I told you earlier, I fell in love with Mountain West basketball. And there it is, a Mountain West team in the tournament. All right, I followed Jim Larrañaga to Bowling Green. Got to tell you, when I got there, I wasn't that impressed. He had won some games. His son and Antonio Daniels were there. They had won some games. Wasn't all that shot in the backside with how things were run, but hey, I digress. Jim Larrañaga has turned out to be a great basketball coach. Jim Larrañaga has now sent not one, but two teams to the Final Four. He did it in 2006 at George Mason, and he did it at Miami. And I got to tell you, same thing. High-powered, high-octane offense with a lot of toughness. You know, you seeing a theme here? Are you seeing it? Like, I'm going to change my tune. I always thought you got to make shots to win the tournament. I do still think that. But as I'm watching this, you can't have kind of teams. You can't have some guys are in, some guys are out, blah, blah, blah. You got to have a team, number one. Brad Stevens said it. I want everybody pushing in the same direction. That's how they did it at Butler. It didn't matter if it was a janitor. Didn't matter if it was a secretary. Didn't matter if it was a baseball coach. Didn't matter if it was a grad assistant in the athletic department. Everybody in Hinkle Fieldhouse, in Brad's words, were pushing in the same direction. There was no me. There was no I. There was no look at me. Think about these teams. And when you think about Miami, Isaiah Wong's the ACC Player of the Year. The Pac kid comes over. Could have been a lot of jealousy. Big money deal. John Louise takes him from K-State. Guess what? K-State didn't miss him. But certainly Miami helped out by having him. And then yesterday was one for the ages. It was one for the ages. And you know what that was? Let me give this to you so you understand what happened yesterday. There's a kid named Jordan Miller from Miami. Jordan Miller from Miami decided, hey, look, he, goes 7 for 7. All right. And can go 7 for 7. Okay. 7 for 7. Then he's going to go, ladies and gentlemen, 13 for 13 from the free throw line. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. 13 for 13 from the free throw line, 7 for 7. He took 20 shots yesterday, and he made them all. Now, you could lock guys in a building, say, take 20 different shots. And other than just standing here doing that, they ain't making 20 in a row. I'm just telling you, it's one of the great performances that you're ever going to see. Leitner did that back when Leitner was doing his thing. 7 for 7 from the field, 13 for 13, 20 for 20. Pretty good. They were down 13 in the second half. Miami was. They won by 7. That's athletic ability. That's good guard play. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear me say it. That's real toughness. I mean, real toughness. So as I look at the Final Four, San Diego State against FAU, people say, well, you know, San Diego State, really, really tough. They'll swarm FAU. And I say, well, wait a second here. Wasn't Tennessee supposed to do that? I think they were. I think Tennessee was supposed to. Nah, don't sleep. I'm telling you, don't sleep on FAU. How you want to play? You want to get up and down? All right. You want to play physical? Yeah, I got you. And the other one, look, Miami's playing great, but is anybody playing at the level of UConn? We're going to break it down all week for you. We're going to have Dusty May coming on here in about 10 minutes, and he'll break it down for you better than any. The Empire State Building lit itself up in the colors of FAU, and I got to tell you, it's glorious. How about FAU? One guy doing their announcing, one guy on their SID crew, and here they are in the Final Four, and I could not be happier. Hey, thanks for watching Don't At Me with me, Dan Dakich. Make sure to like, subscribe, or click the notification bell for more of my beautiful face. Check out my full show to my right, or watch this other video. See ya.